Hello everyone and welcome back to the Hearthstone Grand Prix here at DreamHack Valencia. I am Raven and joining me to cast the next game is going to be Frodan and Nimsh. So we have the next game coming up which is going to be a bit of a crazy one with Superjj in, which is known at the moment for just dominating the tournament scene. Any tournament he turns up at, might not necessarily win, but always goes deep.
Yeah, definitely. JJ is one of the top contenders at the moment, and he is 2-0, I believe. And also, after his game, I've seen him analyzing the games with Stansivka. Like, basically what they do, they record the game that they play, and then after the game, they sit down and they analyze it to see what has gone wrong or what has gone good.
Yeah, JJ, I think, is one of the best players to break out really towards the end of 2015. I think people really had him on his radar already as a rogue specialist, and then when he started competing in events, people realized that he was one of those players that if you do give him chances, he will impress more often than not. And very few players have that to their name. They have a few good events. Maybe they made a deep run. Maybe they do have some good reputation for ladder finishes. JJ has all of that. He has consistent ladder finishes, and he's also placing or winning a lot of events. Just in the past 7 or 8 months alone, I think JJ might be even the most winning player, along with players like Tyson, Hoy, and Sixo. Some of these guys are like really good.
Yeah, I think as well in Swiss specifically, he just seems to excel. Like he's one of the players who can go through, a ton of matches in a day and still come out on top. The guys who've been interviewed earlier were talking about fatigue setting in this type of format, but it just doesn't seem to bother JJ. He just seems to excel and continue to perform. So I expect a lot of good things from him in this game. He is against a relatively unknown player, though. So
We should feature them once in a while. I think while we try to tackle some of the more known players or semi-known players, we do want to remind people that it is open for people to register, and a lot of people from the local Spanish community are playing here. So it's cool to see Safo here to try to see if he can take down one of the established names, because that's ultimately what Hearthstone becomes accessible, that it is a fighting chance. Like it's not 0% chance, not even 10%. It's much higher than that. As long as he's a capable player, we do see sometimes the occasional upset.
Yeah, I think the mindset is as well, Nimsh, that you, as a player in his position, you've got like everything to gain. Like if you take down JJ, especially on stream in a big tournament like this, like it's definitely going to boost your career if it's something you actually want to take forward and take seriously.
Exactly. Also, a lot of people don't realize that those local players, they just sometimes don't have the money and are not able to travel to those big events. So when a big event happens in your backyard, you just go there and shine and show your skills. So it's really possible that we have a lot of great players here that just didn't have an opportunity to play in any other tournaments before.
I think, well, I mean, it could be that. I mean, I'm not refuting that, but I think a lot of times it's people who just really they really enjoy Hearthstone. They like watching it. They like playing it. Events happening relatively local. Maybe it's on the other side of the country, but whatever. You make the trip out. You actually do pretty well, and you're like, well, you know what? Maybe I will try to pursue it a little bit more seriously in that case. That could be the scenario here. Maybe he's doing well right now. He's 2-0, and if he continues to do well, maybe he does have that inspiration to keep going further. Until then, it's kind of a casual experience that he spends a decent amount of hours per week, but it's not something he's completely serious about. And that's where these events are really supposed to help you feel that. You're supposed to try to get that thrill of competing, because it is very fun to come participate in these tournaments. I highly recommend any person who's watching right now, if there's a local event for Hearthstone, especially a DreamHack, go to it, and you can really experience how fun it is.
Yeah, even just meeting a lot of the players that you wouldn't normally speak to and catching up with them, getting their thoughts on the game, because as you were mentioning about going over matches afterwards, if you see a lot of the best players, win or lose, go back over the game straight away. Even if they win in even a dominating performance, like, I want to go over it and see what exactly improvements I can make. But overall, from what we've seen, I know you've been talking to a lot of players, Nimsh. Is there any sort of like deck choices or lineup choices that have really surprised you so far?
Well, definitely we were expecting the big four, which is the Dragon Warrior, Token Druid, and the Zoo, and the last being the Shaman. But a lot of players, they actually brought different lineups. And I was actually talking to JJ this morning, and he himself is the one who is bringing the specific lineups, something different. He doesn't want to play the coin flips all the time. He's just looking for a small edge that he can get from the matchups that were not tested. Like we've seen him bring a Priest for DreamHack Summer, and he had good success with it.
That was awesome.
So amazing.
The only Priest player in the top 16.
Exactly. I think this time he's not bringing the Priest, but he again has some surprises for us.
Yeah, I have to anticipate Rogue being in there. I think JJ is a Rogue player through and through, for better or for worse. And these days, Rogue seems to be in a really interesting spot in the metagame where I feel like people have maybe forgotten about the Rogue class because they just assume that it's Priest and Paladin tier. But, I mean, if you take out its weakest matchups like Shaman, you realize that a lot of decks have been slowing down. I mean, Dragon Warrior, for example, slowed down significantly. They used to play Inner Rage and N'Zoth's First Mate as some of their early game choices. Now they started adding, like, late game Dragons. Some put Onyxia, some put Deathwing, some put, like Ragnaros and Malkarok. That all of a sudden gives Rogue some time. Maybe the matchups aren't so bad. So if people choose to bring Rogue, we saw Zyrej choose to try to bring it. Didn't work out for him, but he didn't really get a chance to to really throw much into it. I think Rogue does have its pocket in the metagame. I don't think it's super amazing, but I think it's definitely got some legitimacy to it.
I still think like the biggest surprise of this tournament in a way is how popular Freeze Mage is. A lot of people actually brought Freeze Mage where Tempo Mage was the one super popular and hyped by RDU, using it to win the DreamHack Summer, and also at the Hearthstone Festival, Maverick was using Tempo Mage himself. So a deck really strong, but then Freeze Mage, it's here and it's dangerous. Yeah,
I mean, Freeze Mage in last year's standing makes a lot of sense. In last year's standing, you specifically can pick the right time to counter certain things. So with a very polarizing deck like Freeze Mage, it actually excels a lot because in last year's standing, the number one thing you have to make sure to do is that if you counter pick, it wins. If you pick a 50-50 matchup, you're often in a position where you lose more often because your opponent will be able to counter pick you with their better matchups. So that's why Control Warrior or Defensive Warriors in general, that's why you see, Aggro Shamans and Freeze Mage, because they do tend to have some polarized matchups in the past, prior to Whispers of the Old Gods. Nowadays, with Whispers of the Old Gods, things have gotten a little bit more towards the 50 Finner Center. When you consider a favored matchup, it's actually 55-45. It's not nearly as dramatic swing as it used to be. Yeah. Partially thanks to Conquest, but also partially, of course, design. Yeah, it's one of the reasons as well, like you said about Freeze Mage, where it's not often you'll see someone lock in Freeze Mage game one, right? It's like a snipe. It's risky. Yeah. It's risky. But then some people can prey on that. That's true. They're like, well, maybe my lineup's really bad against this, and if I know he's not going to start Freeze Mage, I can really pin him on two of these other decks. I can really try to get that game one win, because another thing about last year's standings, if you get that first game of the series win, you're at a significant advantage, because then, assuming you go for the counter pick web, you have the final say. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting as well to see that players take mainly two different approaches to tournaments like this. With quite a large field, they either try and go with the strongest decks, as we heard like Green Cheap and Impact talk about, or go for something to try and counter, something like Freeze Mage. So, they had some quite strong feelings, I believe, on they think you just bring the best decks, and that's the way to go into, like, especially Swiss with playing so many matchups. But I definitely think there's room for some, interesting choices to try and catch out your opponents. Definitely. And bring some new decks as well, because we've seen the Shaman from Tars being the Concede Shaman, and also some... Concede Shaman. Well, it makes you concede, right? It really rarely kills you with damage. I feel like when we say Concede deck, we just have a lack of originality for creating an actual proper title. It's a pretty cool. I like to call it Wall Shaman, because you create this ancestral spirit wall taunt that they can't get past. But, I mean, I don't know. We'll expect to see some of that. Instead, we have our series starting. And yeah, we're going into the first game, so you can take it away, guys. Enjoy it. Thank you very much, Raven. Safo on Team Broken JPEG up against Superjj on Team Complexity. I like the fact that Safo, like Super it's pretty awesome that he's sponsored by such a really popular. It's really popular brand. Definitely. I see that all the time whenever I'm trying to load internet overseas. I would like to see Safo specifically from the hotel. Definitely, yeah. It does show up a lot of times. But I would like to see Safo in the future drop to 20, like JJ. He was Superjj 102, and he grown up. Like, he doesn't use the number now. Yeah, it could be the fact that he is 20. Maybe. Well, I was thinking his birthday, but I don't think you're born on February 0th. Probably that would be really impressive. Yeah. Very special. We don't know the bans yet, but we know the matchup, which is Cthulhu Druid from JJ, so a deck that we didn't talk about much, but it's still in the metagame, it still exists, versus the Tempo Mage. Yeah, Cthulhu Druid is also a very interesting spot. People have been looking at Yogg Druid to be one of the better variants of Druid these days, but Cthulhu Druid still very much has powerful matchups, specifically against Hunter. I think that's like the best counter to Hunter outside of Aggro Shaman. And it's peculiar that JJ choose to broad it, but once again, trying to adapt to the metagame. And when you ban Shaman and one of the more problematic decks in the metagame, it just opens up more flexibility for you to like have specific counters to stuff. Maybe he's trying to kill warriors. Maybe he's trying to kill the Zoo Warlocks. And Cthulhu Druid is just not bad. It's definitely one of those decks that just has its own agenda, and if you can't adapt to it in time, it just rolls you over.
Yeah, it's definitely a very strong deck with big taunts, and we've seen it DreamHack Summer. Both Orange and Hoy were playing the deck, and they got really far in the tournament.
No, it's certainly not weak. It just doesn't seem wildly impressive. It doesn't necessarily play onto the board nearly as good as some other decks that are able to ramp out. Like Yagdru can still do this, but they can still ramp out minions very fast, but they also have even more explosion because they have Savage Roar versus Cthulhu Druid. Just feels like if you can't fight back onto the board, you have to fight on the board very honestly, just through minions like 4/10s and
just drop the biggest
4/6s,
minions you have. So here, an awkward turn for JJ because you have 4 mana, you can go up to 6, which doesn't help you do anything really. Can you?
You could innervate Nourish for 2 extra crystals and play the Disciple of Cthulhu, but that doesn't really allow you to play anything on 7 mana, and it doesn't even kill off the Water Elemental. So it is pretty awkward.
So you can also like...
I mean, I don't mind killing the Water Elemental either.
With the Innervate, you probably don't want to use Innervate here. You want to keep Innervate for Ragnaros.
Oh yeah, certainly, because you're going to be able to draw cards with Nourish, but I think like the most thing that you have to really worry about is with Tempo Mage is leveraging minions onto the board. Because from this position, that's when they play Flame Waker and they use like mirror images. You can't really get past it, and then all of a sudden minions are hitting you a lot.
But then the coin is actually not in the hand, so this hand is not that good for Tempo Mage yet.
Yeah, it's not. And Tempo Mage, you know, I feel like we shouldn't really call it Tempo Mage nearly as much. I just feel like it's more of a mid-range mage, and I know this debate has been going on for a long time within our community about proper nomenclature of decks. But it's true. I've seen a lot of Tempo Mages. A lot of times the correct play early on is to leverage your hero power a lot, save your cards, and then go for this immediate...
Big tempo play?
Yeah, big tempo swing. But it doesn't mean your deck is entirely dependent on that. I mean, sometimes you do curve. I've seen like some players pass from turns 2 to 4 with hero power, and they have Mana Worm and Flame Waker and Cult Sorcerers and all these other cards that you want to be playing out on curve. It's surprising.
Yeah, because you can really swing the game there. But still, I guess like we don't have the better name for it for now.
Yeah, we do. We have plenty of names for it.
Would you like to change it right now on this cast into mid-range mage?
Yeah. Be the agent of change you want to see, or whatever Gandhi said.
Tempo mid-range mage? Anyways.
Innervate Ragnaros, extremely powerful if your opponent can't deal with it. Sniping the Water Elemental would be also good, reducing his ability to knock it down. So how do you actually kill it now without Fireball? I guess you just have to let it live. Oh my goodness.
You have 7 damage with... No, actually, no, you don't.
Yeah, you only can do 6 damage to Ragnaros right now. I mean, the good news is the Clamber Axie Weaver is frozen, so if you play smaller minions, Ragnaros might be able to hit one of them. I mean, Mana Worm and Azure Drake makes sense there on paper. It doesn't feel like Sorcerer's Apprentice does anything incredibly well. All right, looks like he's going to just start hammering it away.
It's another small minion on board, but you're not in the best spot. I would probably like Azure Drake a bit more here.
Yeah, I think the problem with this play is that if your opponent clears it, you're still stuck in the exact same position. You just have to play Azure Drake next turn and then use Arcane Blast, which is okay again, but then you're losing out on your ability to draw deeper into your deck ultimately and control the board.
Yeah, that's why I kind of like Azure Drake, because just being stuck with 2 in your hand, it's not the best.
It's just so clunky mana-wise. I don't think it's necessarily that bad of a spot if one of these minions did end up living, but it looks like it's okay. Because either one, like the Sorcerer's Apprentice or the Mana Worm, it's going to get some work done.
But still, good situation for JJ anyway, with 2 big Klaxis. And Klaxi is an interesting card overall, because a lot of people started cutting it from the Cthulhu Druid, but JJ is playing 2 of them.
Yeah, cutting it in general seemed to be, it just allowed you to do more powerful stuff instead of just like the normal minion pressure. Sometimes you're just stuck with 4/10s, but you need taunts or you need burst.
Yeah, and people play Fandral, I think, in some versions. And then you just don't have the space for Fandral is really...
How do you not play Fandral? He's like one of the... Okay, he's one of the 5 best cards in the expansion.
I do agree, yeah.
There's no way. Like him, along with Call of the Wild, N'Zoth. Cthulhu is really strong, but like definitely FanDuel's up there in terms of game defining cards. We're just like, well, if I don't kill this card, I just lose. Speaking of which, here's one of them. Cthulhu comes down with a chance for lethal, and there it is.
Yeah, nice lethal, and there was also innervate with the hero power, so JJ takes the first game with the Cthulhu Druid.
Oh, that's right, he did innervate, so he had guarantee lethal. So job well done there from JJ, taking down the Tempo Mage, which was never really able to establish the board control. I do think that JJ just curved out pretty well there, but one thing to keep in mind is that this is what Tempo Mage can struggle with, and that's why a lot of players are always on the fence about it, because your win rate starting with Mana Worm on turn 1 is so dramatically different from it not having it on turn 1.
Well, a lot of people actually like even keep the Mana Worm in their hand. Like if you're able to go with Mana Worm, yes, but then versus Warrior sometimes you just keep it in your hand.
Right, and you don't play it.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying some people just keep it in their hand in the mulligans. I'm like, yeah.
Well, yeah,
good old
they do.
No, it's true. If you suspect sometimes that your Mana Worm dies, you can even not play it on turn 1 and then choose to play it behind a mirror image or with a second minion, so that way you're always 1 minion ahead and getting the damage in.
Exactly. Or if your opponent has removal, he only can remove 1 of the cards you have on board.
Right.
But yeah, definitely Mana Worm can bring tempo, but that deck is dead, and we are back to the Zoo versus Cthulhu Druid.
Yeah. Now, the difficulties with Druid fighting Zoo still hasn't really changed much. You look at the fact that Zoo can build onto the board very quickly, and Druid doesn't have very clean AoE. Swipe doesn't exactly interact very well with Imp Gang Boss unless you're directly hitting it, but say you have multiple of them, or even Possessed Villager doesn't actually clear anything.
Well,
so
Swipe is still alright, because if you're able to clear the board, then Forbidden Rituals hitting the board, and then Swipe is great to just wrap it up. So go.
But I mean, it's not always that convenient. Like on paper, yeah, it makes a lot of sense if you're able to save Forbidden Rituals for it. But when Darkshire Councilmans come out, Swipe doesn't exactly cleanly remove that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 2 health minions, the Dark Peddlers, the Knife Jugglers. And it's just it's never guaranteed to be super clean. That's why.
True.
That's why I'm like, yeah, Swipe's like good, but it's not amazing. Like I wouldn't want to always have to be in a position to keep Swipe off the opening hand. I'd rather have minions.
I would love to have an innervate in the opening hands whenever I'm playing versus Zoo, but still,
with minions to play.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you are possibly drawing the minions, but anyway, this situation is really good for JJ. Just looking at the hands, because double Forbidden Ritual and double Swipe, which means JJ has a great answer to this.
Ooh, yeah. So he chooses to go for Forbidden Ritual. If he misses, oh, okay. All right. So he goes for the trade. He hedges his bets around like a coin swipe so that his opponent gets a full clear. Claxy Amberweaver comes into the hand here. Also a viable choice, because your opponent would have to buff and clear.
Yeah, but it's not going to be a 4-10, only 4-5.
It is what it is, though.
Also, like, you could possibly use Wrath to draw a card, but using the first swipe to clear is pretty clean and good as well.
It's interesting. I think when you see your opponent Forbidden Ritual, you kind of put them on the fact that their hand must be slightly awkward for the mana usage. They weren't able to pair like a 1 mana or 2 mana. Obviously, the optimal plays usually end up becoming Imp Gang Boss or Darkshire Councilman. He didn't really have that, so he maybe says either one, he has a really clunky hand with a lot of 4 drops. I have to be mindful of that. Dark Iron Dwarf.
Defender of Argus.
Or he's holding Power of Overwhelmings.
Yeah.
So I have to be really careful about that. If I play Claxy Amberweaver, you can just use one of those 1/1 tokens to trade in very efficiently.
Exactly.
So that's a pretty good read from JJ.
The swipe was definitely good there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a clear, but then second swipe can still be okay here.
Dark Urkoa.
So you can swipe the 2/4 and you almost clear the board.
Shout out to the Voidwalker, by the way, representing the Captain Pride Rainbow very well.
It has
not disappointed at all.
Does it have like a good new animation or not?
Yeah.
It has a new one, right?
You know, the Voidwalker is the closest thing we have to like a hollow card in Hearthstone. Remember like when you open up those golden Pokemon cards or something, you always got to see the hollow foil on it. It was so cool. At least, no, it is. It is so cool.
It's like
I'll
golden.
say it.
Like golden cards in Hearthstone.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like back then we couldn't really have golden animations on cards, so
True.
they had some like just pretty foil on it.
On the normal cards, at least, it's impossible. But yeah, Arakoa is there as well, and JJ is just slowly building up. This buffed Cthulhu as well, so Veclor will be able to double up. Klaxi also will have 10 health.
He's challenging. Sorry, the Dark Arakoa is just challenged on board through 7 power right there. If there's a single buff, then one of these minions will survive. In this case, the worst case scenario, Direwolf Alpha is very, very good against the 5/7. So
He's thinking about a possible Innervate Rav or Innervate Hero Power, but then on the next turn he will be able to Innervate Azure and Klaxi at the same time, or maybe even speed up Cthulhu if he gets it.
yeah, I think you're somewhat happy if your opponent trades your entire board into it. And if you innervate Wrath, I want Wrath to draw a card because of how your hand needs to continue to pound on yourself. Like,
Yeah.
if you Wrath for 3 and you kill like Defender of Argus, then you're essentially just making it like still killable because he has to do +2 damage, which Zoo can do very easily.
Yeah, it should be easy overall, and it's not easy to draw cards in Cthulhu Druid as well.
Yeah. Yeah, your card draw source, especially because you only run 1 Nourish on average.
Probably, yeah,
It's,
one Nourish, maybe double Azure Drake.
Yeah, it's unlikely you can draw very effectively to Cthulhu, which ultimately is one of your main winning conditions against this deck.
Because what can Zoo do against the Cthulhu? Like, really? Cthulhu drops in, clears the board, and it just stays there.
It can Void Walker Taunt and Prey. That's pretty much what it usually does. But, I mean, assuming the game goes that long, we're still several turns away from seeing Cthulhu being played.
Well, double swipe was used, so it might be troublesome to clear this board if there is no Raven Idol in the deck, and he might not be playing the Fandral Raven Idol version.
Yeah, imagine if he still had a swipe and Azure Drake just comes in here, barreling its Blue Giant's claws, and you innervate that swipe. That would have been game over.
Yeah, that definitely, but no swipe here, so you can still go for Azure Drake to see what you draw, and then innervate Klaxi to the board, but
I like killing the Direwolf Alpha as well. So I like Klaxi, Ember Weaver, Twilight Elder, Innervate, Wrath, because the Direwolf with 5 minions on the board next to it, that's just so threatening, and it almost makes your 4/10 half that.
Yeah.
It actually might as well be a 4/5 because the way trades go into it.
that's probably the best, like taking 4 power off the board and also just protecting your part of the board.
Right.
But on the other hand, you would kind of like your opponent to attack into your minions instead of going for face because you have no taunt, you have nothing else.
Sure. Young Priestess or Archon Squire chooses to go for Mortal Coil. I guess he just wants to cycle. I'm definitely okay with any of those choices because he's just going to play the board control game.
I'm not sure I like it actually. From Zul perspective, I don't know which version is he playing. Is he playing Doomguard or Leroy? But I would definitely like to see him going for face and not trading it. It doesn't matter how big Cthulhu is. Like when Cthulhu is being played, you lose anyway probably, and it's still like some time till Cthulhu is being playable because we are at turn 8.
Okay. That's a pretty fair argument. I think there's not much that Drew can do without swipes. I mean, that's one of the downsides of using swipes pretty early. One of the downsides of JJ trading swipe for just a Forbidden Ritual. However, you can't really foresee that the board would expand in this fashion. So JJ chooses to clear up 3 minions here. He's got 5 power plus 4, so that's 9. So another power overwhelming will end it here for Safo. He's looking for just now 2 more damage.
Yeah, so Defender, Doomguard is enough.
Yep, so ends up being able to push out. He's got plenty of damage.
Yeah.
Because he could squeeze it all in mana-wise. But this is kind of the expected result. This is why the counter was available to him. And JJ does have a couple of decks stored up. That Rogue most likely can come in here and take down the Zoo, but we'll see.
Yeah, Rogue versus Zoo is awkward. And also there's the Warlock from Superjj that we don't exactly know what it is. I have some assumptions, but I talked to him before, so I don't want to spoil anything. But overall, well, you cannot ban Shaman and Zoo, and Zoo is one of the strongest decks right now. And I think most of the players in this tournament, they are actually banning Zoo and trying to counter Shaman instead.
So I think if you ban Shaman, it kind of heavily leans towards being Arena Warlock from JJ. I think That's probably likely, and if that's the case, then you almost certainly have to pick Rogue because Reno Warlock versus Zoo has definitely gone very much in the Zoo favor recently. It definitely feels like with all this AoE available, like Demon Wrath and Hellfire and Shadow Flame, you should be able to handle Zoo's pressure, but that doesn't always be the case.
Yeah, like most of the time, Zoo can actually like build up a board in the early game, deal some damage to you, and then you have to spend your resources on like just trading this board. And then they have you in range, and if you don't have Reno Jackson, you just lose there.
By the way, I feel like Flame Imp and Voidwalker should switch art because Voidwalker's the one with the big muscles, and Flame Imp kind of looks like, you know, one of those
small imps.
He definitely looks underdeveloped. Like he doesn't go to the gym. You know, he kind of looks like one of us Hearthstone players. You know, Voidwalker is kind of like the Call of Duty, MLG, even the CS:GO guys like Fukazoid, and then we have
like honestly,
the Hearthstone players like the Flame Imps, the Possessed Villagers. That's like more of us.
I would like to take you to the WoW TCG lands. In WoW TCG, Voidwalker, with that art, had 3/5 stats. And
really? Was it 1 mana?
No, for free mana.
Okay.
But it was like a 3/5.
Oh, 3/5 taunt for 3?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was a really good taunt.
That's really good.
And it actually like looks like a Voidwalker then. Like you see it's being beefed, right?
Yeah. I mean, he probably skips leg day, but Voidwalker still is very much jacked.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And this matchup is, it depends. Like whoever has the coin, definitely backstab plus SI7 can give favor to Rogue. Fan of Knives also being a good response to Ritual. But we'll see. What do you think about Zoo's situation here?
Well, I mean, normally Zoo just tries to follow along its curve. The disruption really comes in through this. Like, why is Rogue playing an Argent Squire? You know, Argent Squire already starts putting alarm bells up. Like, I know that there was, I think you were actually the one telling me that there was like versions of Tempo Rogue coming out there on the ladder. I think China was starting to put it out to push to Legend. And you play some of those classic cards like Defiance Ringleader, Argent Commander, Argent Squire with Cold Bloods. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think one Argent Squire might just be to help him handle the early game.
Definitely. So it's still possible. It's just a normal Leroy version of the deck with just one Argent Squire.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a good tech because Argent Squire versus many decks is just really good to handle the early game.
Yeah.
Especially because you still run Cold Bloods in the Leroy version. Might be just better than a second ship or whatever.
Yeah, precisely.
So it seems like JJ is actually being able to take care of this board and be on board himself, which is great for him. And if Zoo is behind, it will be really hard for Zoo to come back versus Rogue.
Yeah, I really like this diligence to not, or sorry, discipline to not use Fan of Knives. Fan of Knives would have guaranteed a board clear, but Fan of Knives is one of your best cards against Zoo. Not just Forbidden Ritual, but all those small, pesky little 2/2 minions that you can also snipe. Direwolf Alpha, Dark Peddler, Knife Juggler, if you have spell power on the board.
And he has spell power on board. He also has Azure Drake, just in case.
Yeah.
But now I think it's oh, wow. Okay.
Yes,
now we're talking.
Please. I mean, now he doesn't have to choose development of minion. He can now play Azure Drake, and he can clear the board, which is just really strong. Not to mention that he also cycles, and also that he gets some initiative by pushing damage onto the board. You can just see Safo not looking very comfortable right now.
There is Doomguard.
Okay, that was a good draw.
Yeah.
If he didn't have that and he's just playing like Darkjar Councilman and Life Tap,
that would be so sad.
He's in huge trouble.
So you play Doomguard and you probably have to trade into the 4/4.
Yeah,
this is not something you really want to do overall because he knows that he's losing this matchup. Like versus Rogue, you want to go face with Zoo and just catch the Rogue without health and finish it off with like power overwhelming attacks. But right now he's out of cards. And this is really easy to kill as well.
Yeah. You can just play. Oh, he's going for the 6/6 Van Cleave. Okay. I wasn't sure if he wanted to kill the Doomguard and just play Van Cleave as a 4/4, but using his mana efficiently, putting some pressure onto the board here. I wonder if he's going to attack with the Blade at all.
Yeah, he's going full aggressive here, especially because he's seen Defender of Argus being discarded.
Okay, that makes sense.
And Doomguard cannot really contest the 6/6.
It kind of can. Not really.
No.
I guess, I mean, it puts it down to 6/1, but the fact that
you have to have a Mortal
Blood
Coil
Mage,
to be actually able to kill it on the turn you play Doomguard.
yeah, if only you're able to flip that Doomguard somehow with the Crazed Alchemist, but it wouldn't work that way even if you had the mana. So does he life tap here for a better answer? Oh, goodness.
He's just trying to develop the board.
Oh, goodness.
Basically, what Safo tries to do is trying to say to JJ, hey, JJ, can you please attack into my minions?
Man.
But JJ knows better.
Yeah.
Well, he can actually still attack. No, but he will lose the Edwin to Doomguard. This is 7, 10 damage. He's almost there.
Yeah, I'm trying 17, 20. Yeah, put him down to 20. Or so put him down to 1, right? Do you want to?
You probably don't have to do it this turn.
But you have so many draws to finish the game after that point.
I kind of like attacking with the weapon into the 2-2, going face for 7, and then just weapon up. Because then you like force your opponent to go with the Doomguard and the Councilman into Edwin. And your opponent will be at what, like 7 minus, that's 14.
I really like playing Leroy, man. What you could do is you could trade the Thalnos into one of the 1/1s. Yeah, and then make it awkward. Oh my goodness, backstab, just to make it more complicated. And then you can just push all this damage, put him down to 2. I like that a lot too.
That's good, that's good. I like it as well. Basically just say to Warlock that you will not life tap. You have Doomguard in your hand, I know, and Doomguard is not really doing much. Like if you want to kill Edwin, you need to run 2 minions into it. You will not be able to kill Leroy.
Wow, are you serious? Defender Vargas. I mean, you can't tap, but that was the only card that could save him.
Yeah, that actually solves this a bit because you just kill Leroy with the 2-2 and you go face for 6.
Oh wait, I guess you just still play Doomguard. I apologize. I forgot that he had the 1/1.
No, you don't have to play the Doomguard. Like you can play Defender Vargas here and like round the 2-2 into Leroy and then go face with another one, or just trade as well. Yeah, that's fine. Just in case of Sap, because it got buffed like by Defender Vargas and by the fact that Defender Vargas was played.
Well, yeah, I was trying to weigh if
he needs
because it couldn't kill the 2-2. Yeah, the 6-2. Yeah.
He needs a Void Walker now.
Yeah, he needs something to defend it, but it can't. Just, I mean, Rogue didn't even necessarily need the minion, just needed to pray that Zoo didn't have a taunt. So.
Yeah.
Yep, that wraps up the game. So JJ takes the lead of, again, a crucial game, but so far everything's going according to the plan. Now, Safo has only 1 deck left. It's a Warrior.
And I have to assume this is probably the Dragon Warrior, but other Warriors are also playable.
This is pretty good position here for JJ because he's got 2 chances. And Dragon Warrior against Rogue, at least we were actually talking about this before the series started. On paper earlier, it should actually be favored, but, well, I mentioned that they took out aggressive cards like the Zos First Mate to really get that board control going.
So this is, I still believe,
could be aggressive.
The dragon version with the Nizov and Fiery Dragon. So like a very aggressive Dragon Warrior, which means that it favors Safo. Because
it tends to, yes. But there's Argent Squire, so I
that's
wasn't
something.
sure.
But Argent Squire is not heal, it's not taunt. It's something to fight in the early game, but basically if Dragon Warrior just goes face, it's really favored then.
Rogue has the coin, has also Edwin, and with coin Edwin, that means precisely that you're stuck with removing it through execute if he's able to build up big enough. Fairy Dragon, one of the most problematic cards, but the prep fan.
There is no backstab though.
Man.
No SI, but still.
I don't think he wants to go all in on this Van Cleave. And definitely not now that he drew his Gadget Auctioneer. Another way to kill Dragon Warrior is just conceal the Auctioneer. They can't really do much with those mid-range minions.
It's one of the ways, but still, like, if you conceal your Gadget Son and I just go face with my stuff, that's
I know you're right, but I mean that's like assuming that when you conceal Gadget Stand, you're not at 4 HP and there's 10 power on the board. I'm saying when you get a clean board and all that's left on the board is a concealed Gadget Stand and you're at like
it's almost never
18
bad.
health.
It's almost never bad to just conceal your Gadget Son. Yeah.
Yeah, you almost like win every time from that position, but it's kind of hard to get to that spot. You don't always guarantee it.
There's no execute for Edwin, so he just has to tank this damage.
Yeah.
And conceal. Yeah, conceal is interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, he has Gadget Stand with the coin now, so that's really nice. And he's got initiative for now. I mean, that's where Fire War Axe comes in now.
Blood to Eaker is a really good pickup here as well because you can go for frauding Blood to Eaker and kill it with a weapon. Is there an alternative play maybe?
If you want to be mana efficient, you slam.
Yeah, you can slam as well to draw the card.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing I can agree on, I don't like Azure Drake here. So I think Frothing Slam, because you want to get that extra buff on it, perhaps. It's hard to say. The 2/2 does become slightly relevant, too, because you're coming up on a turn where you start to want to pressure your opponent out of the game. Okay. Now that you have Execute, Bloodtaker Keep was very good. Helps you squeeze in stuff.
True. It's only 2 mana. And there's the second coin, so we can actually
right.
go for Gadgetson,
Yep.
coin, conceal.
Well, first you conceal, and then you
stuff like that,
you
yeah.
eviscerate that Frothing Berserker. Everything kind of lined up perfectly here. 2 conceals.
Yeah,
Dang.
so this is really good opening from JJ
Yeah.
overall. The possibility of the Edwin that was able to keep that warrior in check, then Pillager, and now just clearing the board with the Gadgetson is awesome.
You know something amazing too is that Argent Squire is a very good combo enabler if you didn't have Deadly Poison or Sap targets. So that's something else I was thinking too. Just drop Argent Squire for those combos early game too.
I wonder if he's playing 1 or 2.
Has to be 1. If you
Probably.
have 2, what are you actually cutting out of your deck? You know,
Farseers?
you have no Farseers in your deck? I mean, maybe if you cut Shaman and you're expecting a lot slower meta, you can get away with no Farseers. But that was in a N'Zoth Paladin, N'Zoth Priest meta with Reno Warlock. You can cut Farseers then, but I don't know these days.
Well, I've seen people play just shifts instead of Farseers. Like just play Zaril instead of like Zaril and Violet Teacher. But we've seen Violet Teacher for JJ.
Do you not play Finley here? I actually do feel like Finley still is relevant. If you're in a game plan of I'm going to armor up to stay alive and win this game, you're in a really bad spot. Plus the 1/3 isn't irrelevant.
Yeah, you probably want to have Steady Shot. Like Life Tap may be too dangerous.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think card draw is your weakness right now. I think you're just worried about dying.
Yeah, your health.
Is that death? 4, 8, 12, 15.
That's a lot of damage there.
Yeah, he's pretty close. If he draws another Eviscerate off this Cold Blood, I think that should be it. I mean, he's going to conceal again.
And there's no answer.
Yeah.
Literally no answer to be able to stop that.
Hey, you can even squeeze in the Squire.
The only answer, I believe, is the Twilight Guardian, but there's
Yeah, usually on 8 mana you have that Ragnaros ability to go for that 50-50, but in this position, pretty bad spot to be in. Yeah, I don't mind dropping that little Squire. Because then that means your hero power plus the SI would also be lethal for the following turn too.
Yep.
I'm completely okay with this.
JJ is so patient, by the way. Just look at his face. He's like, yeah, I got this. This is easy game.
Ooh, and that's lethal.
Yep. Found it.
Job well done. The Miracle Rogue, once again, coming in the pocket, where I don't think Rogue's really a bad choice for the metagame right now. I think Rogue actually seems to be a very good choice if you choose to ban Shaman.
Well, you know, Rogue is this class that at some point people forget about it, and then it just comes out of the shadows and takes the tournament. And we had that at Insomnia. Raven is with us. Do you remember Insomnia? We had
I'm really glad you didn't go for a Shadow Strike pun there.
I do remember Insomnia, yeah, but that set overall was just crazy. Just it was JJ again showing dominance, and then with his signature class as well. It's just not even unexpected at this point, let's be honest.
It's already 2 things that are slightly unusual for what we see. I think a lot of people expect the core 4, so to speak, with Shaman, an aggressive Shaman of some sort, Zoo Warlock, Dragon Warrior, and then, of course, the Yogg Druid. But he's already mixing it with Cthulhu Druid. JJ's actually joined with us on the – what is this?
How are you doing, man?
The chairs.
chairs.
We don't have a
Chairs.
couch. We don't have a desk. The casting area.
So, JJ, you have 3 hosts interview you. How do you feel about it?
For 3 hosts interviewing? Oh.
Oh, it was like
Yeah, definitely not 3 analysts. Let's make that
How are you
clear.
doing, guys? You having a good day?
Oh,
Doing
we're
good.
being interviewed.
Doing good.
Okay.
oh, you're interviewing us not right now?
No.
Great.
You want to interview us, JJ?
I mean, we are all. Come on. Okay, Frodan, how do you like the decks, like the meta so far? Like, did you expect it? Did you expect it?
I expected Rogue from what you are. What I wasn't expecting was Cthulhu Druid. That surprised me significantly because I think a lot of players have fallen in love with the Yogg Druid, or maybe not in love with the Yogg itself, but the token Druid approach of it. They feel like it's too good of a deck not to bring, and you chose to bring Cthulhu Druid. Why is that?
Now it switched around. Okay, let's do it.
Oh, okay.
The Cthulhu Druid, yeah, it is pretty good. Like I think it lost against Sue because I did one misstep, like the swipe, but I think it should have been won. I think it's just nice. It's decent against the Dragon Warriors, against the Suloks, and does also well against the Druids in Mirror as well. I think it's a fine pick. Also, like, you have to consider, like, you have a really draining Swiss stage, so it's like the whole day, and Cartoon Druid is a bit easier to play. No, it's
reasonable.
I like
That
that.
is
That wasn't.
Yeah.
It took me off guard. So I wasn't expecting that.
That's something I talk with Impact and Green Sheep as well. Like, you have to really think about fatigue, like mental fatigue during the tournament.
Yeah.
And as obviously like a rogue specialist, everyone pins you out as. Is there? How do you feel that rogue actually is in the meta at the moment? Like, do you think it's a deck you would just bring because you enjoy it and you're really good at it, or do you still bring it because you believe it's in a good spot in itself?
I mean, the way I was building my lineup, it kind of fit in the rogue. You just have to tack it a bit differently. It does definitely fit. I think it's definitely one of the stronger decks, especially with the Shaman getting weaker because of the popularity of Dragon Warrior. So I think, yeah, it's in a decent spot. The only thing with Rogue that is really there, I think it's definitely one of the hardest decks out there to play, and you get punished for one single misstep. You'll just lose.
You've countered that by bringing Cthulhu Druid, though, so it's fine. You've got one deck that's going to tax you quite heavily, and then you've got one deck that you can relax a bit more.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, yeah.
And like, how do you feel about this metagame? Because you're never bringing like normal decks. You always find something different, and it actually works out for you. Do you think this lineup, at the moment you're 3-0 in this tournament?
Yeah.
So do you think this lineup is going to carry you as well again?
I mean, the lineup never just carries me. It's just, I guess it's the lineup and the plays and staying mental fit.
Yeah, your lineup carries you, JJ.
Yeah.
It's all about the lineup.
It's not what the hell you play card-wise.
It's all lame, just like getting carried by the lineup.
All right, I just wanted to like underline the importance of the lineup.
The importance of the lineup, yeah. Of course, very important. Like, deck building is underrated amongst the pros. People bring the most standard decks and they're like, man, I lost that coin flip. How did I lose? Yeah, it is like this. You play Dragon Warrior against Dragon Warrior. Who gets the Vorax? Play Druid against Druid. Who gets the Wild Growth? It is not a joke. Like, if you don't want to play like that, don't bring these decks.
Yeah, and don't complain because you don't innovate and you don't think outside the box. There are cards and stuff to counter certain things, and I like that it's working out. I love that it's working out for you, man. 3-0 currently. Yeah,
congratulations again, JJ. We'll let you go and prep for your next match, but I believe we do have Crane versus Fallen on its way now, as the match is midway through, so we're going to be joining it.
JJ's messing it up, man. He wanted to come cast with us, and I said you have to start losing, and now he's winning again.
Yeah, the worst thing is he said he would try. He said, yeah, I'll try and get a cast in, lose a little bit, so I've got the time. Doesn't bother. Just wins them all anyway.
Thank you so much, JJ.
All right, he gives us a thumbs up. So yeah, we have a second match lined up because as every Swiss round goes by pretty quickly, we want to be able to stagger some games so that way the round finishes and we don't have that much downtime. We're going straight into the second series. Thanks, Raven, by the way, as our chap is taking a leave. Crane is a player that really got to prominence through finishing high on ladder through Patron Warrior. Most recently, also achieving top 8 in the Spring Championship for Europe.
Yeah, also he had a good performance at PGL, so he's been around.
Definitely up and coming for a while, and we already see something unusual. I was already saying, like, well, the Fallen versus Crane should be kind of cool, but I didn't expect to see a N'Zoth Paladin.
Yeah, N'Zoth Paladin is here, and this deck just disappeared from the metagame. Like, in the beginning, everybody loved it. Like in Austin, we've got so many games of this deck.
Yeah.
And suddenly it just died.
And it's already unusual that Fallen, like he brings the Paladin, but also specifically that he's also banning Warlock, which I don't think is necessarily a bad choice, but with Warlock and you have N'Zoth Paladin, I always thought N'Zoth Paladin did okay against Warlock.
It's not the best because, like, even when you have a Pyromancer, some imps are staying on the board, and you can get rushed. But overall, like, even if your Paladin gets killed, Zoo might be troublesome for the other decks you're bringing.
Is this lethal? With Savage Roars, 5/7, 11 plus 6 is 17. Yeah, I think he's got lethal if he Savage Roars here, right?
7 plus 4.
Oh, he's got swipe lethal as well. Okay,
yeah.
That's fine too. Same thing.
Yeah, so we hyped Paladin so much and it just died.
Okay. Well, now we get to see why. To be fair, the first game looks like Fallen lost with Shaman. And that was Yogg Druid taking out Shaman, and now Yogg Druid is taking out the Paladin, putting it just on the Warrior. And this is one of the things about last year's standing, that your strategy could all be crux on a specific condition, and if that condition is not met, like I don't win this first game, you could get swept. A lot of times it's like 3-2 or 3-0.
Yeah, the problem is like you have counters, but if you basically lose the good matchup, or if you when you lose with your counter, you just have nothing to stop the deck that's just going through your lineup. But still, I think from Crane's perspective, this Druid is pretty good versus Shaman, I would say. And just so no surprise there that he won. And the last deck right now is Warrior, and it seems like Nizov Control?
Yeah, at least that's what it seems like on paper. Nizov Control Warrior definitely saw a little bit of play, but Control Warrior's matchups recently have been...
By the way, Onyxia! There's Onyxia on the board! Not on the board, like in the hand.
Let me finish this thought real quick on Control Warrior, and we'll talk about Nixia.
Sure.
So Control Warrior, a lot of people will look at it as like, well, that deck's just continuing to be around, but it's definitely fallen a little bit out of favor just because the matchups that it has, like against Hunter, is really bad, and like the match that you're good against normally, like Zoo Warlock, definitely hasn't gone there, and you also lost a lot of your tools. You don't have Shield Maidens, so what's your reliable minion that gains armor? Oh, it's Ancient Shield Bearer. Oh, wait, that's a Cthulhu Warrior deck.
Yeah, that's why Cthulhu Warrior is more popular at the moment, at least on ladder. But Control Warrior is still okay as the deck. It's just a bit
like Patron Warrior. It's like, okay. It's not, but you can use that Warrior slot for something better.
Exactly.
Supposedly. I mean,
Cthulhu Warrior is just better. So if you want to play Control Warrior, you probably just pick Cthulhu.
I mean, it's better in most matchups. Some matchups, Control Warriors definitely like a little bit better too, because you have some consistent early game removals. You know, you do have like Bash and a few other things that helps you get those clean snipes on it, but Bash isn't nearly as effective as it used to be. So one thing to note too is, like you mentioned, Onyxia is starting to become pretty popular in Druid, just because Cenarius doesn't exactly feel the most reliable for accomplishing what you want. Sometimes like the taunts isn't exactly what you're trying to go for. You're just trying to go for like board presence and pressure. But even the +2/+2 buff from Cenarius isn't exactly landing consistently.
Yeah, it's mostly like you just take the 2/2 trends, and with Onyxia at least, even though it doesn't stop the damage the turn you play Onyxia, it presents a great threat on board.
This is sweet.
Think Master Overspark. It works really well with the Brawl.
Yeah, it works well with the Brawl. It also happens to deal with Concealed Gadget Sands really well, or 4-mana 7/7s. Wins you back some of that tempo that you might lose there. Especially if it gets at 1/1. If it gets to a 5/5, 7/7, it's pretty good.
Edwin Van Cleef.
Yeah, precisely, man. I don't mind that. Before, when people told me, primarily Nimsh, who's sitting next to me, always tell me that Think Master is a great card to put in. I always had like a raised eyebrow, E-Cop style, if you will, where I just kind of stare at him wide-eyed. But nowadays, I don't hate it. Control Warrior definitely needs some of that little edge to come back, and in a tournament, some of those tech cards might end up being the key to victory.
Definitely. And talking about the Druid a bit, because Warrior looks really fun, man. We've seen Karen and Chilmo, so probably Nizov to like bring it back.
Yep.
And we've seen Nizov Warrior before from Fibonacci and a couple of other players, but this Druid has a really interesting opening, which he's setting up Fandral. Can he like Fandral this turn with Innervate? Not yet.
No. I mean, he can nourish for mana crystals and Innervate Fandral, but I feel like that's a waste.
Yeah, this turn you definitely draw the cards.
Yeah, he's already ramped ahead of his opponent, and now he wants to draw cards because his hand wasn't looking amazing. Now Fandral plays. They actually do exist a few of them. But, I mean, you've given some time for Control Warrior to ramp up. And Control Warrior, if given the right tools, can beat pretty much everything. It just doesn't always get that tools, and those mid-range decks punish it. It's not nearly as effective as it was against those aggressive decks as well.
So now you do have Wrath, which is a really nice pickup. You will be able to deal 4 damage, draw a card, and then you have Innervate as well. But Hero Power.
I mean, it's either Hero Power or Living Roots. Most likely Hero Power because it's more efficient. You can save Living Roots for the Violet Teacher as well. Fandral still presents a pretty big threat to your opponent.
It also baits removal. So you go with Fandral first, and you'll have Violet Teacher as a follow-up, like if your opponent deals a Fandral. And there's obviously a super easy way of just Bash.
Now, this is a position that I don't exactly hate, though, from Fallen. I mean, if you look at some of the tools that he has, it's not exactly the most effective, but Baron does deal with tokens pretty well, especially Power of the Wild tokens. Creating 2/2s, very convenient lined up for Baron to snipe it.
It doesn't deal with double Power of the Wild tokens, which sometimes
That is
happens.
true. Nor does it deal with Yogg-Saron summoning Call of the Wild. I mean, you can kill the
Yeah.
Huffer, that's about it.
True, but still, Warrior is in an okay position overall. I would have to assume there's double Brawl in the deck as well, so there are ways to deal with tokens overall, or just a big board.
Yeah. The Alex Strauss is also interesting. It is very retro. This does feel like some of the old versus the new coming together. In fact, I feel like that trend's happening all over Hearthstone. You look at the Jank Zoo that has Young Priestess and Argent Commander.
The new
that
Rogue.
6-0 used to win Starladder last week. The new Tempo Rogue that's bringing back some of those old elements that we saw back in the beta of Hearthstone. That's really cool to see some of the new cards mixing with the old ones, the very old ones that we have.
It's probably because the card pool is smaller right now, so people go back to those cards from the classic set.
Right,
and they're like,
reevaluate them.
Yeah, exactly.
So Fallen doesn't exactly have convenient removal for this Azure Drake. Could play Harrison to start having minions on board.
Yeah, Harrison is fine because against the Druid you probably not use it ever, and at least here it contests the Azure Drake.
Well, he's not. He could. The only scenario where I see Harrison is if Yogg gives you an upgrade, which actually does happen once in a while.
I
That's
kind of like
about it.
Onyxia here. Oh man.
Oh, I love Onyxia from this position.
Trade the 5/4, play Onyxia, be like, sure, brawl if you want.
Or you can play Violet Teacher, Feral Rage, build up a slight board anyways. Maybe even if you Living Roots, if you want to encourage it, have the brawl come out, then play Onyxia.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
It's one or the other, I think. Like Onyxia now means that you use the 9 mana very efficiently.
Yeah, and also like I think it's just one card where if you go for Violet Teacher, you spend a lot of cards, and
That's true.
You will, let's say next turn you draw Power of the Wild, or like in 3 turns, you would like to have Violet Teacher with Power of the Wild probably.
It's true. The thing that I do like about Onyxia play is if he doesn't have Brawl right now, that it kind of forces him to just respond to it very awkwardly, and you probably just win. I'm personally a fan of this play because it's like making sure that you put a lot of pressure on the board, and you're also maximizing the amount of pressure, like amount of damage that your Azure Drake can get to instead of just trading for a minion.
Sure.
So that's the reason why I like it too. This sort of encourages Brawl if you had it. In this case, Baron is actually pretty good.
Is it that good? It is. Yeah, it's actually good because you can kill the 3/5 as well.
Wait,
You're
do have
taking
Revenge. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, Revenge doesn't do much here, I think.
You have Revenge and Brawl, so it feels like you can use Baron
Geddon seems the best because you're taking 3 damage. You're actually taking 5 damage, so you can drop to 24. And there's the Azure Drake being on board versus your Geddon. But
you'd kill Azure Drake and not the Violet Teacher?
then I will kill Violet Teacher for sure.
Okay. I guess, yeah, I'd just be afraid of the easy trade or the swipe, but I guess Violet Teacher is more threatening long term if he was able to remove it.
Especially after, like if you have Geddon on board, if Geddon dies, if Druid is able to just rebuild the board after that.
No, that is pretty close. I wouldn't hate killing the Azure Drake though. Just because, you know, the swipe is too efficient, and the fact that the 4 attack and challenge with 5 health. This rope thing, by the way, trips me out every single time I've seen it since the new patch.
And you also, you actually also have the Revenge and Brawl, so you have ways to deal with the tokens.
That is nasty. And another 1/1 debut. Why not? Raven Idol for spell. I think some of the best spells are like Force of Nature. Soul of the Forest?
Yeah,
that's sick.
Soul of the Forest is quite good versus Warrior.
Yeah, that's such good anti-brawl tech. And imagine if you land an Ixia in the sticks.
Yeah,
and then you can play Soul of the Forest.
That would be amazing. So you do swipe this?
Probably swipe this. Soul of the Forest now means that Baron can... Well, actually, hold on. How good is that?
Well, if you Soul of the Forest and you don't kill Geddon, Geddon can attack into your minions, maybe another bash or whatever, and you still lose your whole board.
Yeah. I mean, originally why you did this was to set up the swipe. So Alex Strauss in hand means that Chillmont is activated. And now this is where Solar Forest is pretty silly.
It's okay. Definitely getting some to-dos is nice.
I think based off the way that Death Battle triggered the, oh man, what is going on here?
Can you actually play around Shilmo a bit?
That's a good question.
Well, still, like, you are getting some tokens from Soul of the Forest.
Sure.
So if you can you play all those cards here, like Savage Roar into Power into Soul of the Forest, and you protect your like Azure Drake doesn't
trade
die.
the smaller tokens. I mean, he's also going on the assumption that in the event his opponent doesn't have a dragon, he might actually just win.
Yeah,
depending on like how the damage lines up. I think he could go 6 into Chilmaw and then 7, 11, 17. He'd be off by 1 if he didn't have it.
A really powerful turn. And you're not even losing Violet Teacher here.
Right. Okay.
So
and this way he's maximizing his potential. He's only going to be able to attack with the Drake and the Violet Teacher, but still a really good position.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And you still have an Onyxia next turn, and you're forcing a Brawl here. And even if the Brawl is actually being played, you still get some to-dos out of it.
You might even get a few more. Say like one of the 2/2 survive, and then you have 6 powers still on the board.
Exactly. Oh, there's Ghoul as well. So much removal, but still, Druid is able to pull through and deal so much damage.
So, does he have to brawl? He can just revenge and leave 2 2/2s onto the board. It's close.
You can also, can you Ghoul maybe to deal with the Violet Teacher?
And then, I don't know.
Then revenge?
I think because you don't kill the Azure Drake, so it's not exactly clean. So if you play the Ghoul, you might end up brawling, but that's not mana efficient. If you go for the Brawl, you can play Revenge and then armor up.
Yeah, that's probably better.
I think that's probably the best. But then you're playing
beautiful.
Brawl and Revenge, man.
I know, right? But then, like, you've seen Violet Teacher being played. You've seen Fandel. There's only 2 cards.
If you Brawl, it's highly likely a 2/2 survives, and then you have 3 2/2s, and you're just like, oh, you're almost dead on the board.
But do you really expect Onyxia?
Okay, this means he's just going to Revenge. He's going to Brawl?
He can stun first. Stun Azure Drake, yeah. And then Brawl, and it is dangerous now, but...
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, 4 power survives. Actually, in almost every scenario, 4 power survives.
True.
With 10 health.
So 6 more.
He did use a Savage Roar.
And now after that, can you go for Onyxia?
Feels like Onyxia is pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good dragon with a couple of whelps.
You don't get all the 1/1 whelps, but you're still summoning 12/12 of stats for 9 mana. It's fantastic.
But now you have the Tingmaster Overspark for Onyxia. After Revenge.
You have the Revenge and Tinkmaster Overspark, except it might actually just do nothing. You still might die. Because if it was a 5/5, then he's at 6 health. It's close.
Well,
all right.
Still the play.
I don't know if you're in a position to try to. I mean, you could slam to fish, but then you almost guarantee die if it's a 5/5 double sword.
Yep. So we go for the Squirrel, boys. Tingmaster Overspark changes a random minion on board, not Overspark, into a 5/5 or a 1/1. And
this time for sure.
He will armor up as well, so even if it's a 5/5, he still survives.
That any way to live, though.
It's a 5/5.
No.
Still better than the 8/8.
8/5. Yeah, I guess. I mean, he's saying well played because he's feeling like he might die, but...
it's highly likely, actually.
Yeah, just needs to seem a little bit of extra damage here. Living Roots, swipe. Doesn't get it.
Doesn't get it.
Wild Growth can still cycle for it. And if not, he also can just Wrath and kill Tinkmaster. Really good position for Crane at 3-0 here.
He might not be... Oh, there's a swipe, but not enough mana. It's still a really good position. Like, you put your opponent to 2, so with armor up, you know he's going up to 4, so you win with the swipe, but there is this Onyxia. I mean, Alexstrasza to
Alex
get you up.
really clutch here. Imagine if he was able to slam with that too. The difference of 1 mana being able to have a nice clean board while drawing a card and having an 8/8 on board. And it's not exactly like Crane has the most life either. He's past the halfway point.
Well, he has to do something with Alexstrasza.
Yeah.
It's dangerous now suddenly.
5, 9. Is this a position you feel comfortable comfortable enough to Yogg. I don't think you have to because you have so many removal options. You can like Wrath.
Yeah,
and
you Wrath
can
and
play Emperor Thorsan. Or you can play actually double token stuff.
Yep.
I like that too.
That's a really good board, and free will not
Yeah.
kill you. But Thorsan is also nice, just to limit the cost of the minions in your hand.
The benefit of the double token thing is I think he's, or the bad side of it is I think he plays directly into like another Revenge. And he's like, you probably don't have a lot of many ways to single target execute, which he does.
But you know,
And
the
all of a
Fallen,
sudden, man,
Yeah,
he's climbing back.
the Fallen is slowly climbing back from this position, and now
Ooh.
Grommash as well. But
Grom actually puts him on a 2-turn clock. If he plays Grom right here,
I think you still play Karen. Yeah, you just want
Really?
to develop the biggest possible board here.
what's wrong with playing Grom? That you get 3 damage to face, put him at 12, and then if your armor's up, he's at 13. You have 13 power on board.
Mulch is the problem, and he actually got.
I think Yogg is also a big problem too. If he's able to kill off a minion, Crane doesn't look exactly the happiest right now.
And it's not bad actually. Mass Dispo.
Or maybe
Fort
he is
Lightning.
happy.
He is.
Now Blood Warriors is relevant.
Smiling. Well, with Yogg, you definitely expect to clear the board, and
Wow,
you actually
what?
clear Karen
He
easily.
silenced it and executed and buffed and drew cards.
The problem is that you have really few cards in your deck, so if you have too much draw, that
Man.
will be troublesome. But this Yogg,
Wow. Give me that charge.
oh, holy fire! Which face? This.
Oh, he
okay.
just basically canceled it out.
Yeah, more
Drawing
draw.
too many cards.
That's 4 damage actually.
All right. Well, I guess if Yogg's going to die at the end of the turn, you might as well cash in on something.
That's a lot of spells, by the way.
Cold Blood, Flame Lance.
And that would be
And
it.
he just cleared the board.
And drew cards, and this is what you expect from Yogg. You expect Yogg to draw cards and clear board.
Yeah. So
He has initiative with Worthless in.
what was the secret that was played?
Counterspell.
Counterspell. Yeah. Shout out to the DreamHack production crew, making sure that we can see secrets on the opponent's side with the overlay. That triggers me, man, whenever I see events not do that.
Yeah, overlay is great here. So we know almost everything. There is one card.
He's so afraid of Mirror Entity or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, please don't be Mirror Entity.
Yeah.
If they execute it, if that's the case. Yeah.
So Grow on board, and he goes up to 14. His hand is not great, but it is activated and executes.
All right.
So can we deal with Grommash here easily?
We can mulch it,
That's
and then he can
that's-
play. He can either choose for the teacher route, or he can. Yeah, probably. You could probably play Ancient of War as well.
I like keepers, I think. Minor keepers to build up a board and then buff them next turn with power.
Okay.
And then you also
I mean,
have Mortal Strike.
as long as he did something to build the board, I wouldn't be unhappy with it.
And like this is basically one of his last pushes.
Murloc Knight? What?
Well, it's a mulch. So, you know, you can get anything.
It's just funny. Like, I haven't seen that card in a while, and it's actually, like, a lot worse because old Murkai is no longer available in Standard.
It actually summons Murkai anyway. It's
Really?
yeah, it summons old Murkai.
No way.
I think I've seen it a
Are
couple
you
times.
serious?
Yeah,
You're allowed
it's-
to get that?
Yeah, well...
That goes against
unless-
everything Standard's supposed to
Yeah,
represent.
I know, unless they fixed it. Like, but you could actually get old Murkai.
Okay. I'll trust you on that one. Names don't lie to me.
I hope it's not the case, but I've seen it in the beginning after it
Okay.
released.
All right, I'll believe you on this one. So he has 2 Ravaging Ghouls to clear off the 2/2s. You have to, I guess time's on your side in a sense where like the longer the game goes, you can just win because your opponent's taking fatigue damage, but it doesn't feel exactly
Whoops.
most reliable. Counterspell, I mean, he was testing for a bunch of stuff like Effigy first. You know, he had to eventually get this counterspell out of the way.
Yeah, it's also fine. Like he's to keep this one execute for Ancient of War because like this list is mostly known. So I don't like executing the 3-1 here. We've seen one Savage Roar before, so if you are familiar with this list, you definitely keep execute for the bigger creature that comes.
Now 2 executes are used. Ancient of War almost basically impervious to whatever can be thrown at him from the warrior side.
Brawl possibly like a second
Brawl is
deck.
a possibility, and that's what he's playing around. He's saying in case your Brawl is the one card you top deck, because he knows that that one card from Mulch is what he's holding.
And that's
Brawl
a Brawl.
it is, so he has to Brawl.
Yeah, and hope that one of the ghouls survive.
It's a 50-50. But even if the ghouls survive, how is he going to take down this army of tokens from the Violet Teacher afterwards? That's a lot.
Second revenge, maybe?
Yeah.
That's not terrible. Definitely better for the Fallen than the 5/10 surviving. And now you cannot
play
really play
Murloc Knight.
You can't, I think. You just armor up. Because you really want to get value from it. So if you just play it, it just dies to this free one and then hero power.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. But at the same time, I think you wouldn't be mad if it traded to 3-1. It's tricky because you're definitely in survival mode here if you're Fallen.
Yeah, but if you armor up, you basically just take 1 damage from the free one.
Imagine how different. I don't know if it'd be really that much of a difference if one of his 3/3 survived. Sure, you'd get initiative, but with Swipe and Living Roots on the other side, I don't know if that would actually be the difference maker. Fallen's in a really tough spot here. I don't think he can win.
Yeah, Crane has a lot of damage in his hand. A lot of good cards as well, still.
Choose to go for it, so now Crane can just
kill him?
Kill him. He's got enough damage straight up.
Yeah, that's basically it.
All right, so job well done here from Crane. He is also 3-0. Putting the complexity boys on top of the Swiss ladder here, and of course making Sottle a really happy man.
Definitely. But then it also shows the power of the Yoxaron Druid. We call it Yoxaron Druid, like token Druid, but basically it's all about the Violet
Not
Teacher's
really
fun drills.
Yogg-Saron Druid. It's so dishonest to say that it's like Yogg Druid just because it has Yogg in it as a 1 card.
It's just a token
It's got
Druid?
it's got tokens in it and a lot, so I like calling it token Druid.
I wonder what Raven says about the deck. Like, is it token, is the Yoxaron, or just like Living Roots Druid?
Yeah, I mean, or Living Roots Druid, definitely. No, like, a lot of people call it Yogg, but it is Token Druid. I actually do think that deck, if Yogg wasn't in the game and just magically disappeared, I think the deck could actually still be pretty good, because as you can see from a lot of the games, you don't actually always have to rely on Yogg to even win it. Yogg's just like an additional backup plan more than anything. As you know, we see the various combinations the deck can come out with, like just game winning in themselves, as we saw in some of the previous matches there.
It's the biggest flashy card, because
yeah, of course, it's very flashy to see it, but in Crane's case, it was kind of just like a Doom, you know, clear the board, draw cards.
It's okay.
But it got the job done. I mean, he played a secret, which is cool and all, but we'll see. Crane's joined us for a couple of words here. You want to say hi? What's up, Crane?
I'm good, man.
Getting entangled there.
I'll help you.
Yeah.
You're good? Okay.
Congratulations on the win. We actually missed the first game, I believe. How did that one go? We saw, obviously, you know, your Druid deck doing pretty well, as we can see, but what happened in game 1? If you can remember.
Yeah, he was playing, well, I don't know, maybe I should not reveal what he was playing to his benefit, like, since it wasn't a stream, but he was playing Shaman, and he kind of just didn't really have a very good draw, and I had a pretty decent one.
Gotcha.
So I just spaced out, like, my threats, didn't play into, you know, stuff that I didn't have to play into, and yeah, I won that pretty convincingly.
What do you think about the fact that you brought N'Zoth Paladin to the tournament?
I like it, man. He's doing something different. I would much rather be playing his decks, but I don't think the power level of those decks are quite where it's worth it.
So you like it because it's diversity, and also you like it because he played against you and you got the win?
Actually not just that, but you also get an edge from playing something that the opponents aren't planning around.
Right,
like,
exactly.
And even are used to playing against. Unfortunately for him, I'm pretty okay at playing against most things, so it's not such a big issue for me that he's playing those decks, but yeah.
What do you feel the power of Token Druid is? Like, you know, a lot of players have said it's just the best deck at the moment. Do you agree with that, or do you just think it's just another strong deck?
I think it's another strong deck. I do think that Dragon Warrior is also quite disgusting, so I don't know. I wouldn't say that it was the best deck, but I think it's definitely tier 1.
Okay.
I mean,
How did you end up with your lineup? Because like you're both, you and JJ are complexity, but then JJ brought something totally different. So did you guys practice together, or did you just like find different practice groups and said like, all right, I'm going with my thing?
We talked about the strategy together, and I was basically trying to convince him to turn to the dark side as me and just play the aggro decks and then Token Druid. So yeah, I felt like I'd been playing a lot of combo decks and didn't quite. Yeah, I mean, I needed to change up. Didn't quite work out the last time, and I feel like the combo decks are not quite where I want them to be, so I have to like just admit it and play the strong decks. And I believe I don't need to be playing combo decks or something. I can pilot these decks quite decently as well. So
Unpredictable is pretty important, though, to a large degree. You know, because a lot of this tournament you're going to be playing against the general field, and if they can have any information advantage on you. Like if you're a person that never plays Zoo and always plays Reno Lock, it can really take advantage of that, especially with bans and how they line up picks. Because in last year's standing, again, getting that first win is super crucial. So that kind of information definitely is important. So.
Yeah, and even on the other side there, where you prepare against the field you expect, right, as opposed to just random decks popping out of nowhere that might not be top tier, but the fact that you've just not built your lineup to actually beat these kind of decks could be a problem in itself. But
yeah,
no,
makes sense.
Any more questions, guys?
No more questions. Well played.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Crane. Congratulations on the win. You go 3-0 so far today. Plenty more games to go for the rest of the day, though. But we are just going to go to a break while we sort out the next round. So stick around, guys. We shouldn't be too long.
Welcome back, everybody, to DreamHack Valencia 2016. We're not quite ready for Swiss round 4, so don't get too excited just yet. Our matches are still underway for round number 3, so we need to finish them all. As you guys know how Swiss works, every game has to finish before we get our seedings for the next round. So at the moment, we're finishing up a couple. We'll let you guys know when. In the meantime, I decided to just hop on the microphone and interview a couple people. I'm joined by a guest that Nimsh recommended. It's Kufton from Finland. How's it going, man?
It's going really well so far. I had a bit of technical issues in the first round. I was one of the people who couldn't get into a match, but outside of that, it's been going great. I have literally yet to drop a game.
It's awesome. So you 3-0'd 3 times?
Yeah, so far.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, right now, because of the way information spread is, we don't actually know anything about your decks. Feel free to reveal it if you want to. I recommend not, just because information is power.
I will say that I have a deck that I think beats most of the meta that I've been just crushing everyone with so far.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's we'll see it later on if I.
Well, maybe we have to feature you now next game.
Damn.
Yeah, you didn't think about that, did you?
Oh no.
How's your misplay?
Yeah. Now the deck's gonna be out there. It's gonna be a massive issue. But yeah, I mean that's been doing really well, and then
Finnish players historically, at DreamHack, have actually kind of an interesting reputation. Outside of Savits, I think a lot of people don't know too much about Finnish players. So last time we had one of the Finnish players last summer, where Nico played, he actually didn't do too well. But people have kind of like this impression they don't really think much about Finland outside of Savits. So why don't you talk a little bit about the Finnish Hearthstone scene?
Yeah, I mean, we actually have a pretty, there's not a lot of teams. There's not a lot of teams sending people out to tournaments and to play in tournaments. But there's actually a lot of good Finnish players around, let's give a shout out to Zump and Creeps, for example, who've been helping me out prepare for this. Creeps.
Oh, Creeps.
Yeah, he's been helping me prepare a bit for this, and just really good, completely unknown players. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more Finnish players going forward because the scene is actually pretty good and growing currently.
Gotcha. So, are you the best Finnish player?
Oh, I can't say that.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, okay.
He's not watching. Savits doesn't watch Hearthstone.
Okay. Thank God. No, I mean, there's. I try to be very political. I'm not gonna go out and say there's Erse. Erse is obviously.
You're not denying it. I'm actually going full American lawyer on you. You're not denying it. Therefore, well, you deny it at least. Because if you can be political by saying no.
I will definitely not deny it.
All right, there it is. There's your answer.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. Next thing you're gonna tell me you had private emails on the server that you took home.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Erse fight me.
Oh, yeah, Erse, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Erse is how I say it.
He did pretty well at DreamHack Winter, and a couple of DreamHacks he's gone pretty far.
He did all right last time as well, just couldn't quite make it all the way through.
Yeah, Erse's shout out to him as well, playing some cool decks. So, yeah, man, Finland people don't really know much about, but definitely on the map here. Is this how many tournaments have you been to?
I haven't been to too many. This is only my second DreamHack. And then there's been Cluj and some online tournaments. I was in the Volco and Deckmasters.
Gotcha. And how'd you do in those events?
I have a top 8 from Cluj and top 12 or whatever from Volcon. So I've been on the cusp of making it big a couple of times, but never just make it all the way through.
So you can't claim that you're the best yet based off results.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's the results that really hamper my ability to say that I'm the best. Yeah.
Gotcha. Fair enough. How'd you get into Hearthstone?
Oh, I just started like a lot of people, watching Crip stream it when I was back in beta, in the early days, and just loved it.
So you don't watch Crip stream anymore?
Oh, shit. Well, I mean, he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy, and I will give him that.
Crip is a nice guy. A lot of people give him this impression that he's, that he's baby rage personified on stream, but Crip's actually pretty nice. Yeah. I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, or how about this? A better thing. He's nicer than what you might think. I mean, he does sometimes throw in the sarcastic comment that you're just like, shake your fist at him. But Crip's a good dude.
Yeah. So Frodan hates Crip, confirmed.
I mean, sometimes I do, but I also love Crip too. It's like a love-hate relationship.
Oh yeah. Okay, I get that.
Kind of have it. It's like a hot-cold thing. It depends on the mood of the week. Sometimes it's Tuesday, sometimes it's Friday night. Yeah. Well, it's awesome, man. So, what are some of your favorite streamers now? Do you watch any streams still, or do you just primarily play?
I watch all of them. I'll give a shout out to Asmodai. I love Asmodai's stream.
Yeah. You're an Asmo boy?
Yee. Give me some
Okay,
asthma
yeah.
hugs. What was that? I missed
It was
that.
just, Asmodai's a cool guy, man. I like his
Yeah.
stream a lot. I actually host him a lot after I stream. So is he your favorite streamer?
I'd say so, sure.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool. All right, well, I mean, I don't really have too many more questions. I think we're just pretty much just chatting, getting to know you a little bit better in case. Well, now I think we might have to feature you because you're talking about this hype deck that is beating the entire meta game. You can't just tell me that. You need to downplay your own deck. Be like, yeah, I'm just playing like boring stuff, man. Don't show me
Yeah.
on stream.
Yeah.
I'll be like, okay, man, see you later. No, it is pretty cool that you're able to address the meta. Give me a quick opinion on how you entered impact the meta and just like what your thoughts on Swiss format in general.
I mean, Swiss I obviously love. I don't think you'll find a player here who doesn't love the Swiss format overall. It's just, it really helps get the best players on top at the events. But Standard, I don't know. I had really high expectations of Standard when it got released. And now the meta's kind of beginning to like, settle down, and it's pretty stale currently, I'd say.
I think some people would agree with you only because we've seen a lot of stuff. If you take a step back and you look at all the decks that are viable, and you look at what we've seen across the board, I think the only complaint you can really say is that we don't have Paladin Priest currently popular in the metagame. But, the same was the exact case right before Standard where like a few decks really muscled out a lot of the other things. And I personally think, and maybe you don't agree with me, but I personally think that right now in the current meta, it's probably one of the best settled metas we've ever had. Like in terms of like settled metas where it's like 2 months or 3 months into content release, it's usually like 1 or 2 decks just really punish everything else, and then we just figured it out.
There's the highest echelon of decks where like these shamans and warrior decks are, but like there's a lot of stuff that's fighting for that spot, and it's like
Druid's really
viable.
coming out.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then don't forget, like, Warlock's still around here, of course. So, I think personally, out of all the settled meta, this is one of my favorite. But, of course, I'm agreeing with you. I feel like more content's good just because of how much I'm an avid consumer of Hearthstone. But, hey, man, good to get your opinions. Do you want anything else you want to say in this interview?
Just shout out to all of my stream viewers at home, all of the Kufdan boys. Hi, guys. Talk champ.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome, man. Well, maybe if you make some waves in this tournament, it'll turn into an army, not just a couple of boys.
Nice.
I can't tell if you're memeing on me and you're about to say, here comes that boy or something, or you're just actually responding out of pure surprise. Either way, it's delightful. Thanks for stopping by, Kufdan. Good luck in the rest of the tournament. Yeah. I'm going to see if I can drag another person here. I think Ecop said he wanted to be interviewed. We'll find some guy. If not, then we'll find Ecop. In the meantime, stay tuned, guys. More DreamHack Valencia action right after this. Hey guys, Frodan here again, and we're back with another guest. Just to buy a few more minutes before we go into our Swiss rounds, I'm joined by Ecop, who is currently eliminated by round 4, man. Feels kind of bad. I guess you went 1 and 2. Is that correct?
I did.
That's kind of unfortunate. You want to talk about your bad beats? Here's a shoulder to cry on if you'd like.
Well, I think I already cried enough on Twitter, but yeah, it's been rough. I mean, it's what can you do? I'm not even salty about it anymore. Like I was at first, but after when you're used to stuff like this happening in card games in general, then you
just need a few minutes, reset yourself, kind of take a breath, and then everything's okay again.
Yeah, I mean, just gonna farm some points now, whatever.
Farm some points in what, the ladder?
Gosu points.
Oh, Gosu points. Oh, okay. Yeah, the real points, the one that mattered a lot. Yeah. Gosu game rank. I mean, it is kind of relevant. We're using that for the world rankings and stuff. So, I mean, in the end, though, I think, like you said, you can play out the matches. And I think that's what people like about Swiss too. I think, I don't think there's any player that really doesn't like Swiss. Would you agree with that? I think a lot of players pretty much like just playing like this. It could be exhausting. I think that's the downside of it, but I mean that's part of the fun of it too.
Of course, it's a lot of fun. I mean, even if you're eliminated early, then you can still play all your remaining rounds, have some fun. I mean, better than doing nothing all day, right? Just wallowing in your hotel room or whatever. Why do that when you can just have fun playing some more Hearthstone?
It's true. I mean, it's the first day of the event, so if you're done playing, you travel all the way to Spain, and then you lose in the first couple hours and just don't really know what to do for the rest of the weekend when you've booked it already. Because, of course, you have to book optimistically. You don't book just one day anticipating losing the first day.
Yeah.
I've been talking to some people about the metagame, and I know a lot of people always want more content, which is obviously what everyone wants. Like, I would love if we got balance patches. I would love if we got additional cards, etc. But, you know, examining everything now, do you think that there's still innovation left in the current meta game here? Do you think there's things that we can still do that hasn't been explored with what Whispers of the Old Gods brought?
Highly unlikely. I mean, this is what I predicted from the start when Standard was announced. Sure, the immediate impact that Standard had when it was introduced, obviously it brought a lot of variety to Hearthstone and to the meta game. However, considering that the card pool is lower than in Wild, then the meta game will be figured out faster and will become more stale, and there's going to be fewer decks that are actually viable, which is what we see today.
No way. BS. You think we have less viable decks than we did, like, at the end of League of Explorers, at the end of Blackrock Mountain? No way. Dude.
Yeah, definitely.
What?
Yeah.
There's no way. All right, what was the meta game like at the end of League of Explorers? It was Druid, Secret Paladin, and decks that kind of just beat those, like maybe the occasional Freeze Mage, right? That was kind of like, that was the 3 decks that we were seeing.
You had tons of different decks that were actually all viable, and I mean you still do, but
barely.
It's gonna be figured out. The more the meta game is getting figured out, and the more the strongest decks are getting figured out, the more those decks are shifting into the background.
Yeah.
Sure, they're still playable in the current meta game, but I mean it's not like people are bringing those decks.
But I mean,
who's bringing Priest? Who's bringing Rogue? Who's bringing Paladin?
We see Rogues doing well, actually. I think the reason why people don't bring Rogue to tournaments because most people don't play Rogue very well.
I mean, the vast majority you will see is Shaman, Warlock, Warrior,
Druid. Yeah.
And then like some mages.
That's already 4 classes out of 9. that are viable, and then you do have like viable mage decks, Tempo Mage and Freeze Mage, and you do have Rogue that's still in there in the mix. And Mid-Range Hunter is still like a pretty decent deck because Call of the Wild is bananas. You're going to sit here and tell me that 7 and 9 classes that are viable for a tournament lineup is not a diverse metagame.
I mean, viable, sure, but are they the best? That's the issue, right?
Because best means one. There's only going to be one best.
Or 4 best. Like you have to pick
fine.
4. You have
There's
to pick
still
4,
four, but
best
like
decks, right?
even if it's best, like at the end of League of Esports, we had Drew Secret Paladin, like Control Warrior, like Zoo Warlock, and that was all that infested the meta game right there.
Yeah, the main problem is basically that 4 strongest decks are that powerful that there's little possibilities to counter them with like different strategies that larger card pools would allow. But nowadays, with this card pool, you don't have that many possibilities, not that many options to counteract those strong decks, and therefore it is what it is.
There's variations of Warrior, like Dragon Warlock. There's Cthulhu Warrior. We even have Tempo Warrior still mixed in there once in a while. Some, Patron Warrior is still viable to a degree. Then you have the variations of Warlock.
This is all pretty much the same decks.
And variations of Shop. They're all pretty much the same decks.
Yeah, I mean, look at those Warriors. Like you Patron, Tempo, Dragon. It's all the same.
Yeah, but they play a lot of different cards, and so they have different flavors to them.
Yeah, I mean, if you
and then the Reno Warlock and Zoo Warlock are very different fundamentally. Well, I mean that's because Warlock's hero power is insane. It could do anything.
Yeah, but Reno, who's playing Reno Lock nowadays?
There's a few people
playing.
playing.
Only a couple.
The winner of the Europe Championship a few weeks ago played Reno Lock in his lineup, and the Reno Lock made it to the finals of Starlight last week. It's still a viable deck that got him there. In Congress, you have to win with every one of your decks. E-Cop, so it had to win games.
Anyway, my point is.
Oh man, we could be here debating all night about this.
My mind is set. Like you can advocate all you want for those lower tier decks.
Freeze Mage and Temple Mage are completely different. Okay, whatever.
I'm just sticking to the strongest decks and like try to win coin flips against other people bringing.
Isn't that could be your problem, man? Maybe you should have just countered the
there's
meta.
no way to counter it.
That's what you think. That's oh, okay, yeah. Keep thinking that, and then the better players can prey on that ideology.
All right, whatever.